emotional intelligence by playing one's role well. Xiefeng, August 16, 2019. Translated by Qinyu and edited by Care. Emotional intelligence refers to a person's ability to control their emotions in dealing with society, nature, and others, as well as having the courage to overcome their difficulties. Even with a high SQ, spiritual quotient, and IQ, intelligence quotient, if one's EQ, emotional quotient, is low, they will be frustrated everywhere in their work and life and will feel like a big fish in a small pond. Even if they achieve great success in their chosen field, they will not be happy and distress will follow them everywhere. Feelings of isolation and loneliness are actually signs of low EQs because those with high EQs never feel that way. Improving one's EQ is tantamount to improving one's happiness index, which is tantamount to broadening one's own path and range of happiness, joy, freedom, and blessing. There are many ways to improve one's EQ. I will only talk about one way, that is, to play your role well. How does one play their role well? Let us examine my own practice as an example to consider. In the past 2 years, I have operated a small inn in BC, Canada. Last year, the guests rated us with an overall score of 8.8 out of 10. So far, this year's score is 9.1. 8 items are scored. The scores on other items might be high or low, but the scores for the owner are almost all 10s. That is, the scores for me are all very high. How do I do this? I entered my role and always played seriously. When I serve the guests, I regard myself completely as a waiter. When they arrive, I run quickly to greet them, regardless of their age or appearance. I open the doors for them and I am attentive at the tables. I brew and pour tea and coffee for them and I toast bread for them. No matter what questions or requests they might raise, I do my best to answer and respond to them as humbly as I can. Even when they are serious, I face them with a smile. When they are about to leave, I wave them off reluctantly and give them my blessings. Recently, an 80-year-old man who came for accommodations told me that a pair of his trousers was soiled and asked if I could wash them for him. I agreed to do so, but after I took out the trousers, I saw that they were stained with feces inside and out, and they really stank. I took the trousers to the lawn, opened the hose on them, rinsed his pants, sprayed them with liquid soap, and finally removed all their stains with a long brush until they were clean. When playing the role of waiter, I never regard myself as the tour guide of life genuine, nor do I regard myself as the messenger of the greatest creator or the incarnation of God, Buddha, celestial, and saints, nor do I think about my achievements in the past. Here and now, I am nothing but a waiter, let alone regard myself as an old man with white temples. To be a waiter, regardless of who you were in the past or what great achievements you have made, just enter your current role and play the skills and qualities required for that role well. 7/10 of the guests I receive are from Europe and a quarter are from North America. They tend to be very picky so that once a problem is found, it will definitely be mentioned on the reservation website and a reduced score will be given. The guests are made up of many kinds of people, but due to my high room rates, most of them are what we call upper middle class. Several unexpected groups have come by, but when they learned about our rates, they left and went to cheaper motels and boarding houses. Therefore, because of our guests' backgrounds, they are picky about their rooms and services, but however picky they might be about my facilities, they are always satisfied with my service, with me. Because I play my role well, I get along well with the guests. Some like chatting, so I join in with them. I joke and talk about everything with my guests with my broken English and throw in some compliments from time to time. Thus we have no barrier getting along with each other. Once there was a guest who, the more we talked, the deeper our discussion became. When he finally left, he specifically left me a business card, and I saw from it that he was a special representative from the UN Secretary General and the head of their mission. Other guests have also left their addresses and contact information when they parted and invited me to visit them. My parents taught me from a young age, do whatever you do like you were playing, which means that regardless of who you are, play your role well. If you are herding sheep, do as shepherds do. If you are a peasant, plant crops well. If you are an official, you should be official. Of course, if you want to be a hooligan, you should strive to be a remarkable, first-rate hooligan. In short, no matter what role you play, you should play it wholeheartedly and play it well. There is a lady in Japan who cleaned airport toilets diligently for nearly 30 years until she finally became a national treasure class person of Japan. The reason is that she played her role well. Those who play their roles well, whether cleaning toilets or exploring alien life, will be happy to take the initiative to do every current thing well and thoroughly. If they are sighing, grumbling, complaining, frowning, or cursing while they are working, there is no doubt that they are not playing their role well. Those who cannot play their roles well cannot be expected to play other roles well either. Those who cannot do simple things well cannot be expected to do complex things well, and those who cannot do small things well cannot be expected to do big things well. Those who cannot play their parts well will have inharmonious relationships with the people around them. First of all, their immediate bosses will definitely not like them and will kick them out at their first opportunity. Secondly, their colleagues will not like them and will be unwilling to interact and work with them. This is a manifestation of low EQ. Even if we have the ability to poke holes in the sky, if our trajectory of life places us in the role of cleaning out cesspools, then we must not resent its being smelly and dirty, but dig out the dung happily, every day. Do not feel that your talents are unrecognized. Do not blame the greatest creator for being unjust, and do not blame the world for there being no wise person to discover that you are a swift horse. The best way to have a bright future is to play your current role well. In this way, your EQ will increase gradually but definitely. Absolutely beautiful things can only be enjoyed by absolutely beautiful lives. If you want to obtain something you desire, the most reliable way is to match your abilities with your qualities. If they are matched, it will come. If they are not matched, you can only sigh. 埋怨抱怨是杀亲杀情杀爱利器. Grumbling and complaining are weapons that kill kinship, affection, and love. Xiefeng, September 19, 2019. Translated by Qinyu and edited by Care. Feeling resentful, unsatisfied with doing things, dissatisfied with your results, negativity, and blaming others is grumbling. Dissatisfaction with the status quo and results, never accepting anything as being one's own fault, but rather blaming other people's faults for causing unsatisfactory results, thus complaining and blaming others and letting them bear any and all bad consequences is complaining. Once you feel resentment in your heart, you will feel that the world is unfair, that everyone owes you, and that you have paid but not received fairly, which makes you unhappy, angry, and wanting to lash out in passive, negative, and pessimistic language, emotions, postures, movements, and the like are grumbling and complaining. The consequences of grumbling and complaining are very serious. To your parents, they can result in your losing their love for you. To your children, they can cause you to lose their filial piety. To your spouse, they can lead to divorce. To siblings, they can cause your relationships with them to break down. To friends, they can cause your loss of friendship with them, even turning it into enmity. To the ancestor of Buddha, the greatest creator, they can cause you to lose your spirituality. To gods, Buddha, celestials, and saints, they can send you into darkness. To superiors and bosses, they can get you demoted or fired from your job. To your colleagues, they can cause you to lose their help when you need it. To society, they can drive you to despair. To spirits, they can lead you to disasters. Therefore, grumbling and complaining are weapons that kill kinship, affection, and love. Besides, they will make oneself toxic and lose their spiritual light, will bury hidden dangers and disasters along one's way forward, will make one lose their demeanor, temperament, morality, beauty, will create countless obstacles and thorns to oneself, and will put one into vicious circles of negativity, passivity, and pessimism which will get worse with time until one's bright future gets destroyed. Grumbling and complaining are very harmful, and they do nobody any good. An ambitious, emotional, and caring person is not afraid of difficulties, hardships, suffering, hard work, facing desperation, or bearing heavy burdens. But they are always afraid of being grumbled and complained at by the people who are closest to them, especially by their relatives and friends. Once they are exposed to these negative individuals, they will gradually lose their confidence and courage, become frustrated, dispirited, lose patience and love. Their soft tempers will gradually become irritable, and they will gradually lose their reasonability. Therefore, grumbling and complaining are crimes. They spoil good atmospheres, bring waves to calm waters, and destroy all good things. Let me give some examples of grumbling and complaining. My parents didn't give me a conducive environment for my growth. Kid, why do you disappoint me so? Heaven is unfair to me. Were it not for you and this family, I would live much better than I do. If there really were a greatest creator, there would not be such cruelty in this world. The reason I was fired was not because I was incapable, but because my boss was short-sighted and failed to recognize my talent. I am sad because the place into which I have poured all of my body and soul offer me no warmth or solace. There is no true love or affection in this world. My mother's door is the only one that is always open for me. Were it not for you, I would not have become so wretched. Were it not for you, I would not have become as evil as I am. Those are some examples of grumbling and complaining. All stylites should rid themselves of their emotions and psychology of believing those ways. Once you stop it and replace those attitudes with affirmations and praises, then all good things will come your way. The rough wind and rain will gradually cease, and the bright sun will shine on the road in front of you. How does one get rid of grumbling and complaining? Remember this Chanyuan value. The world is faultless. All faults lie within us. When you believe that you are treated unfairly, are suffering, overworked, having to overendure, are abandoned by others, are suppressed, or feel unhappy or desperate, remember that none of these things are caused by the injustice of the ancestor of Buddha, the greatest creator, the inaction of gods, Buddha, celestials or saints, the injustice of society, too many bad people in the world, or that others are misunderstanding you. The root of the problem is definitely not in the outside world, but in you, yourself. To understand the deeper meaning of this value, please read the relevant expositions of this in Chanyuan Corpus and Xiefeng Corpus. 给大家讲几个关于幸福的故事. A Few Tales of Happiness. Xiefeng. January 9th, 2020. Translated by Qinyu and edited by Care. It was a summer day in 1979 when I took advantage of my summer vacation to return from Zhangjiakou to my hometown. While on a ferry in the Lujiaxia Reservoir area, I recognized a familiar middle-aged villager from Dazai village. I had been a village official in a group of nearby villages for 3 years and had earned a good reputation in the hearts of the villagers, so the two of us started talking and I asked him about how his village had come along since I left. A few of his words are still fresh in my mind even now. He said, "Things are fine now, we have plenty of food to eat, and if we farmers continue to have enough food for the rest of our lives, then it will be a great blessing." Happiness is so simple. As long as you have enough to eat, you can be happy. It was a winter day in 1981 when Huang and I rode a train from Zhochuan back to our hometown to visit relatives in Linxia. There was no bullet train back then, so we rode on a slow, traditional train which stopped at every small station between Zhochuan and Lanzhou. It seemed to have stopped more than 50 times. As the Spring Festival was approaching, the train would be very crowded, and since it had come from Xinjiang, it was already very crowded when we boarded it. Even the aisles were full. When we got on the train, it was almost impossible for us to move forward, so we just stood still for 20 long hours. I clearly remember how I just wanted to lie down. Even gravel would have felt good. Happiness is quite simple. You will feel happy if you can lie down and sleep on a bed every night, even a hard one. It was an autumn day in 1997, and I was living at number 10 Mount Pleasant Forest Road, Harare, Zimbabwe. At that time, I had registered a company called Golden Crown Marketing, PTE Ltd. I had opened 2 stores 50 kilometers from my home, had traveled between the stores and my residence every day, and was constantly busy from dawn to dusk. I remember telling Huang that people are very happy when they have something to do with their lives, no matter how tired and exhausted it makes them. Therefore, happiness is actually very simple. You will be happy as long as you have something to keep you busy. It was a summer day in 2011 when I was standing on the second floor of the first branch of Lifuchanyuan in Yunnan province, talking and laughing with my celestial brothers and sisters in the courtyard. A sense of happiness arose spontaneously as I understood that people are happy when there are many others accompanying them through their life's journeys. Happiness is so simple. You feel happy when others are with you. It was the winter of 2017 when Huang, Foyi, and I were living in the Pacific island country of Vanuatu. Our hut was only 10 meters from the sea, and even though it was ventilated on all sides, it was very hot and many mosquitoes lingered on all sides. So hot that I could not bear to cover myself with even a sheet, and I was being bitten constantly and mosquitoes would wake me up all night long. Small mice sometimes fell from the roof of the straw shed, but I thought at that time that if one could live in a house that would protect them from wind and rain and could sleep with a quilt at night without being bitten by mosquitoes, that would be a happy life. So, it is not difficult to be happy. As long as you have a room and can sleep under a quilt at night for protection, then you will be happy. An old legend tells of a group of unusual people who all once shared a miraculous power from birth. To contend for survival resources, these unusual people plunged common people into abysses of misery. Eventually, Empress Nuwa drove them into the netherworld. The worst thing about that place was its lack of water. No rivers, no springs, no lakes, and very little rainfall. Those unusual people had to endure thirst for thousands of years. At that time, the greatest hope of the king and his subjects in the netherworld was to get water and to be able to drink big mouthfuls of it. It is wonderful to have plenty of drinking water. Therefore, happiness is to have enough water to drink. To sum it up, happiness means having water to drink, food to eat, a room in which to live, a bed on which to sleep, being under a quilt at night, having something to do, and being accompanied by a group of wonderful people. Today is the first day of winter, and as I look up from my top floor, I see ice and snow everywhere. The sky and the earth have become completely white, and Lake Laklahatch is already frozen. Except for some slight noise from vehicles passing occasionally on the Caribou Highway, RT97, no sound can be heard. This is the third winter I have spent in Canada, with last year's lowest temperature dipping to -29 degrees C, -20 degrees Fahrenheit, and the year before reaching -30 degrees Celsius, -22 degrees Fahrenheit. The British Columbia weather forecast shows that this Sunday, January 12, 2020, our highest temperature will be -26 degrees Celsius, -15 degrees Fahrenheit, and our lowest temperature will be -35 degrees Celsius, -31 degrees Fahrenheit. But I am very happy because I always have water to drink, food to eat, a room to live in with a bed to sleep on, a quilt to sleep under every night, something to stay busy with every day. And although I cannot be with my brothers and sisters physically, we accompany each other mentally and spiritually in the virtual world of cyberspace. I am the happiest person in the world. Have you found your happiness? 面对瘟神008情每日祈祷心经 Daily Prayer Against Plague God 008. Siefeng. January 26, 2020. Translated by Treasure and edited by Care. Heaven knows me. All gods understand me. Heaven and earth watch my actions. Though the plague god emerges, I remain at peace. Natural laws show the justice of clear rewards and punishments. Whether I receive blessings or disasters is up to the gods. With no fear for my merits or faults. Neither complaining nor hating, as all result from karma. Even the sun and moon must run along their trajectories. I pray for the greatest Creator's forgiveness. I repent all my faults sincerely and no more wrongdoings. Surely, I will follow you if I can pass through this trial. No more destroying living beings or craving worldly delights. I will treat as I expect to be treated and protect all life. I feel the pain of other beings and revere life. No longer losing my temper, but treating everyone with kindness. Far from anger, taking all things as they are, and following my destiny. Always dealing kindly with predestined relationships, releasing all karma, and defusing all resentment. Neither fighting nor robbing, I will believe in the justice of Tao. Neither stealing nor swindling, I will be frank and righteous. Not involving with illicit sexual relations, I will shield my mind and body with kindness and goodness. I will never have an ego, never bully or control the weak, nor gain extra advantage. I will be just and abide by laws without any desire for that which is not mine. I will never produce impure or poisonous things. I will keep my mind clear and bright and be faithful to my words at all times. I will never gather movable property, but keep my mind clean. Revering gods and Buddha, my path will be smooth and bright. Listening to saints and celestials, adversity will become prosperity. With virtue, my blessings will always exceed my desires. Never again will words from my mouth hurt others. No more steps will be taken along evil paths. All of my mind's thoughts will be based on love for all beings. I will conduct myself honestly. Once the roots are established, the path will lead straight. Divine meshes are large, but with no gaps. God shall test my heart and crumble my bones if I do evil again. As I pray more to the ancestor of Buddha, show me pity and keep the plague from my door. I will be righteous as I pray for all gods to bless me. I will observe Life-genuine values and follow the guide's lead, and associate with celestials to elevate my life towards heaven. My heart is now clear, pure, quiet, joyous, and with gratitude and a bright future ahead. 杨改兰无华焰现象给我们的启示 Enlightenment from the phenomena of Yang Galen and Wu Huayan. Xiefeng. January 19, 2020. Translated by Qin Yu and edited by Kair. Yang Galen committed suicide at the age of 28 after having killed her 4 children. Wu Yanhua, who starved herself as a junior student, was down to only 43 kilograms when she passed at the age of 24. The death of Yang Galen and Wu Huayan is a common social phenomenon. Yet these 2 events were simultaneously extreme and yet typical. In fact, plenty of similar phenomena exist, though we rarely hear of them. Reading the books without words is to read everything, including people, society, and phenomena, so as to gain enlightenment from them. It is the original work without artificial processing from which you can derive the most authentic information and enlightenment of an opening spiritual sense. From their roots, these kinds of tragedies have their own internal causal logic, which can be said to be under fate's control. I do not want to explain this here, lest I appear to lack humanity and sympathy, so today I will simply analyze the external logic of her tragedy. Although the internal causes represent decisive factors in the developments and changes of things, without the activation and catalysis of any external cause, the internal cause can be suppressed or even ultimately transformed. This is like a time bomb. As long as it is not detonated, it will not explode and can be diffused slowly. So, what is the culprit that led to the tragedies of Yang Galen and Wu Huayan? The answer is the traditional life pattern. Yang Galen had to take care of her father and grandmother while raising her own 4 children. Her husband was too honest to make money. Even her relatives, friends, neighbors, and the villagers had their own difficulties and were unable to help her very much. In the end, desperate and with no hope left, she killed herself along with her 4 children. For this, we cannot reproach or blame her. When one is isolated and helpless, what seems easy for most of us becomes an insurmountable chasm or a mountain that is impossible to scale. I can understand her deeply, and I might have taken the same path in a similar situation. Of this, no one would dare to boast. Otherwise, millions of people around the world would not commit suicide every year. Wu Huayan's parents had passed away, her younger brother was young and suffering from mental illness, and she was physically weak. For 5 years, she had only eaten the rice mixed with chili that she could barely afford. At 24 years old, her body was devastated from poverty. Most who encounter such predicaments would simply collapse. Now let us suppose that if Yang and Wu had lived in the new oasis for life created by Life-genuine, this kind of tragedy would never have happened. In traditional families, once the most important breadwinner gets sick or passes away, the family falls upon hard times. Relatives, friends, neighbors, and villagers will only offer slight comfort and give breadcrumbs at most, but they cannot solve their fundamental problem. If such a situation were to occur in the new oasis for life, support for the old, the children's education, and the expenses of everyone's illnesses would be borne by the home so that anyone could get through the difficulties easily without despairing. The working people in China always place their expectations for better lives on wise emperors or clean and efficient governments. This is wrong thinking. For thousands of years, and even into the modern era, tragedies are still happening. Therefore, instead of depending on others and on society, and instead of condemning and blaming the indifferent people and the government, it is better to leave the sea of hardship to avoid tragedies. Anyone can take this road easily, that is, by not marrying, but by incorporating themselves into another mode of production and life in the new oasis for life created by Life-genuine. In this way, they will get another life which can even be said to be a paradisiacal one. The greatest creator, gods, Buddha, celestials, and saints have always cared about everyone, including the workers. They have pointed out a clear path for us and created the most idyllic life mode by which we can all lead good lives. But people neither listen nor follow. This is not because the greatest creator, gods, Buddha, celestials, and saints are merciless, but is because we deserve it. We blame neither them nor society or others. If we want to blame anyone, then we must blame ourselves. We all have our own selfish calculations, and our selfishness decides everything. 如何处理理想和现实之间的矛盾? Resolving the contradictions between reality and the ideal. Xiefeng, December 20th, 2019. Translated by Qin Yu and edited by Kair. The reason why I have great trouble is that I have a body. If I had no body, what trouble could I have? Tao Te Ching. Since I have a body, then I also have worries of food, clothing, housing, life, old age, sickness, death, favor, humiliation, panic, fear, and much more. If I had no body, I would have none of these worries. Since ancient times, from the east to the west, from urban to rural areas, domestic violence has always occurred. So how do we prevent people from suffering from it? Legislation, supervision, preaching, intervention, and other attempts have failed to prevent it. Domestic violence occurs because of families. So if there were no families, there would be no domestic violence. Therefore, the only effective solution to avoid domestic violence is to not get married and not form families. If you have no family, you will be insulated from it. How do we resolve the contradictions between reality and the ideal? The best way to resolve it is to have no ideal. With no ideal, there can be no contradiction. The most wonderful sword fighting rule is to use no sword. The most superior mental rule is to have no intention. The best management is to have no management, and the highest ideal is to have no ideal. After determining an ideal, you eventually find that the likelihood of achieving that ideal is next to zero because the vast majority of it cannot be achieved. In this sense, ideal equals fantasy, equals imagination, equals delusion. Ideals are actually harmful. Liu Shaoqi, Lin Biao, Peng Dehuai, and many others' lives did not end well because they were too idealistic. They should have followed the life principle of saints hold the one as the world style. At that time, Mao Zedong was the leader, and they would have moved along smoothly if they had respected him as such, but because of their ideals, they lost everything. There are countless examples of this throughout history. Many prime ministers had great power in their hands, but became overly ambitious and ended up having their whole families executed. There was a college graduate who enjoyed a white-collar job in a big city with a monthly salary of more than 5,000 yuan. One day, he got an idea to buy a nearly 200 square meters house in the city center which cost nearly 3 million yuan with a 900,000 yuan down payment, but he only had 100,000 yuan in his bank account after working for 3 years. How could he buy this ideal house? He borrowed money from everywhere. First, he used the entire 500,000 yuan which his parents had accumulated over their lifetime, and then he borrowed 300,000 yuan from other relatives, friends, and neighbors. After he took a loan of 2.1 million yuan from a bank, he finally bought the house. How did he live afterwards? In order to repay his debts and the loan to the bank, he had to quit his job. How could he earn enough money to pay off his debt and bank loan by working for others? He could not, so he opened his own business. He built a workshop in the suburbs and began blending Wuliangye wine with water and raw chemical materials. He operated his business with a bad conscience. 3 years later, he had paid off all his debts and had his house renovated. Thinking that he should no longer do anything against his conscience, he went to work for a foreign-owned enterprise and became a small supervisor with a monthly salary of more than 15,000 yuan. This gave him enough money to pay the bank every month and support himself well. 2 years later, the price of houses dropped dramatically and his went from the 3 million yuan that he had paid for it, down to just 1 million yuan. Embezzlement at his company was blamed on him, and he was dismissed. With no income, he still owed the bank more than 10,000 yuan each month. He had no choice but to sell his now devalued house. After paying the full value of his house to the bank, he still owed them more than 400,000 yuan. After losing his parents' lifetime savings and all these many years of struggling, his house was gone and he was still strapped with a huge debt. This is what ideals do. If anyone is interested in visiting a prison to interview the inmates and record statistics, I estimate that half of the inmates landed there by their own extravagant ideals. People are most likely to develop great ideals when they are young and good ones when they are middle-aged. They will only see the remoteness of their ideals when they have reached my age. All my life, many beautiful things have come to me accidentally. In Zimbabwe, Africa, I ran a club, a bar, a fast food restaurant, and 4 shops. I also rented a dance hall, a restaurant, and a hair salon. All these ventures were beyond my expectations, but none are within my current range of ideals. I run a small hotel in BC, Canada, and serve guests from Europe, the United States, Australia, Canada, and other countries. The business is pretty good, but I never planned on this as my ideal. Were I asked to leave some advice for future generations, I would implore them to not have ideals. As long as you have none, you will face no contradictions between ideals and reality. If there are no contradictions, you can live a leisurely fairy life. How does one live without ideals? The answer is this: once roots are established, the way will grow therefrom. Cultivate morality, perfect your soul garden, learn and accumulate knowledge constantly, comply with the way of nature, be content with the ordinary, do not contend with others, do what you do every day and do it well, accumulate more blessings, consume fewer blessings, avoid taking the risks of doing things that violate the law, disciplines, and things that corrupt one's conscience. Then leave everything to the management and arrangement of Tao. It is easy to have good relationships with everyone if we want nothing from them. I would not care about the price of wine if I did not drink it. If you have no ideals, then the devil can do nothing with you. You can then keep your mind at ease, and you will then have a good chance of becoming a fairy. Rubbing ropes against wooden boards will cut into them, and dripping water onto stones will wear them down. So pursuers of Tao should exert their efforts consistently. Channels form when water flows, and melons' pedicles fall when their fruits ripen. So people attain Tao naturally when their time is ready. 最简单、最直接的成圣之路. The simplest and most direct way to become a saint. Xiefeng. December 14th, 2020. Translated by Qin Yu and edited by Kair. Can a person become a saint? Of course. How do they do that? It is really quite easy. The simplest and most direct way is to consider how to make other people's lives better than one's own. Once one thinks and acts this way, they will have become a saint. Look at how easy that was. No one had to read the Bible, the Buddhist scriptures, the Tao Te Ching, or the Quran, let alone worship masters or listen to the edifications and teachings of gods, Buddha, celestial beings, saints, great masters, or people with great virtue in the world. You only have to think of how to make other people's lives better than your own and do things consistent with that goal. Do you doubt this? Come on, fight with me and see if you can win. If you go to any prison and ask any of the officials who are there for corruption, malfeasance, or bribery, you will find that 95% of those who have fallen into such situations have done so because they all considered how they could live more comfortable lives than others, and they proceeded to transform those thoughts into actions to achieve that goal. Why do people envy the rich on the one hand, yet hate them on the other? Their envy is because they want to live like them, while their hate is because they make them uncomfortable, because they obviously do not and most likely never will. I have not done statistical analyses, but I am sure that most criminals commit crimes because they want to live more comfortably than others. It can be understood from this that all people who want to live more comfortably than others are committing crimes, even if only mentally. If you do not believe this, just look at what they say and do. All are committing crimes or are on the road to doing so. If you consider all those people who strongly slander and oppose the communist mode of production in life, they all want to live more comfortably than the rest of us. Why should we become saints? It is a matter of realm, of life direction. Saints will certainly not do evil and will certainly not degenerate into hell. Certainty is the life of heaven. Life is short. A century is a single frame in a movie. No matter how we try to grab something, it ends up being in vain. Why compete for the space of a snail's antler or contend for a flash of light? Why not become a saint instead? 让我们来玩装甲成真的游戏。 Let us play the game of pretending to be true. Xiefeng, September 19th, 2020. Translated by Qin Yu and edited by Care. Holographic thinking recognizes no difference between truth and falseness, just as the subconsciousness mind does not distinguish between either. The non-material world only recognizes information but does not distinguish between those two opposites. Therefore, playing the game of pretending something to be true can be very interesting. A man came to Buddha and asked, "Buddha, let 100 families provide for me." As a result, he became a beggar and they did. A woman came to Buddha and prayed, "Buddha, let others serve me." As a result, she became ill and her relatives served her in bed all day and all night. Let us start playing now. People around a healthy man told him pitifully and seriously, "You look horrible. You must be ill." Everyone kept telling him this until he soon became ill. You can fool yourself. For example, your kidneys are both good, but you keep thinking that something is wrong with them. After a few days, both of them fail, and you will be relegated to being on dialysis treatment. You think, "It is such a pain to work every day. I wish I could lie in bed for a few days." Soon, you will be suffering, if not from a stomach pain, a headache, or nerve damage, then it will be from your having sprained or broken your leg. You will surely be lying helplessly in bed for a few days. Those three pretend games are all passive, negative, and pessimistic, and we should never play them. Let us play active, sunny, optimistic, and positive games such as these 8. If you feel ill or have a disease, then you will need to pretend to be healthy. You should believe in your heart that you are not sick, that every part of your body is well. After pretending this for a while, you will recover soon. If you hate someone, even to the point of wanting to spit in their face, then you must pretend that you like them very much and tell them things like, "Handsome, you look cool, you are the greatest." After a short while, you will no longer hate them. When you are eating but you have no appetite and the food seems bland and tasteless, you should pretend that you like the food in front of you. If you do your best to convince yourself that the food is delicious, nutritious, and perfect, that you enjoy it very much and that many people in today's world are suffering from hunger and malnutrition, but that you are blessed to have such wonderful food, then from what had been a simple and boring meal, you will enjoy tasty delicacies. Someone is indifferent or unconcerned about you, so you should pretend that they treat me the best, they care for and love me the most. After a while, they will become the one who does all three. If you feel yourself becoming aloft, then you should pretend to be transcendent, natural, and elegant. Over time, your worldliness will drift away. If something is bothering you, then you should let others see your vigorous, high-spirited, and confident side. Pretending this way will soon rid you of your troubles. If you have expired drugs or stale food, you should think this way, "Panacea will be born from my old stuff. If I consume them, then all my ailments will disappear and I will also see unexpected benefits, and you will become rejuvenated and be in an amorous mood." Whatever you truly believe will be fine and good for you. When you encounter stoppages that annoy you and make you hesitant, you should think, "The greatest creator loves me the most, and the ancestor of Buddha, the greatest creator, through Tao, will definitely arrange the best plan for me." Then, do not worry about it any longer, for it will surely come to pass. Keep pretending that lies are true until they become as such. You can draw inferences about other cases from these 8 instances and pretend that all ugly truths are actually beautiful lies until beautiful truths are eventually born. Such fun games require few investments but offer great benefits and are worthy of your seriously performing and enjoying them. Pretending to be true is to create a state of mind with your heart. These are the lowest levels of games that celestial beings play. We need to play them more often. 跟导游混跟导游疯. Follow the guide and play crazily with him. Xiefeng, December 2nd, 2020. Translated by Qin Yu and edited by Care. The sun rose at exactly 8 o'clock this morning, showing half of its face above the top of a tree near Lac La Hatch. It turned dark at 4:30 p.m., and by 5 o'clock, I had lit all the lights both in the corridor and outside. Near the summer solstice, dawn breaks at 4 in the morning, and it does not get dark until 11 at night. During our summers, days last 19 hours but nights are only 5 hours long. But in winter, days are only 9 hours long while nights last a full 15 hours. So, How much daylight and nighttime have I experienced throughout the year? The answer is that the total lengths of days and nights are exactly the same as anywhere else in the world. This revelation tells us that the greatest creator gives equal blessings to everyone. Here's the big question though. Why do some people seem to have more blessings, while others have fewer? The blessings from the greatest creator are constant. I compare them to these 100 yuan. A dying father gave each of his 6 children a pre-inflated 100 yuan legacy on his deathbed. The first one invested the inheritance in stocks and now has more fortunes. The second invested the gift to learn a craft. At first, the inheritance was almost gone, but after a few years of developing skills, fortune came and a comfortable life was achieved. The third one recycled the gift to a church hospital and was awarded a maintenance job in the hospital for doing so, and lived a satisfied life with a small but adequate income. The fourth one bought a set of high-end clothes and went into and out of high-grade hotels, restaurants, and casinos all day, eating, drinking, and playing. In a few years, all of the money was gone, and the recipient had to beg for food on the streets. The fifth one bought several guns with the yuan and gathered some criminals to rob people, until finally being thrown into prison. I forgot what the sixth one did, but you can figure something out. In this way, we can understand that the greatest gives everyone the same amount of blessings, but why some people have so much more than others? Since I understand this, I know that I should eat all the rice from my bowl at every meal. If anything remains, I will never throw it away but will save the leftovers to eat the next day because I know that I only have a limited number of blessings and once I consume or waste them all, none will be left and I will hungry. Of course, I dare not buy extra clothes and shoes, so I wear my clothes until they become unwearable. Right now, I have a cotton shirt on with 2 sleeves that are worn out. No one can see it anyway, so I will continue to wear it for as long as it keeps me warm. Would you like me to treat myself more luxuriously and extravagantly? Over my dead body? No way. I am not afraid of people talking about me, but I am afraid that I will starve or go naked after all my blessings run out. Yuan Tiangang, the author of the 2-Abei prophecy diagram, met Wu Zetian, a baby in swaddling clothes, who was deliberately called a boy by his parents. After practicing physiognomy, reading faces, on the baby, he remarked, "This child has the emperor's face, a dragon's eyes, a phoenix's neck, and looks as noble as Fushi. If she is a girl, then she will master the world." Author Liu Bowen, who wrote the tablet inscription of the Jinling Tower, said in his inscription 600 years ago, Jinling Tower, Lu Ji built it, Jie will demolish it. It turned out that the Jinling Tower was built by Lu Ji and was demolished by Chiang Kai-shek, Jiang Jie in Mandarin, 600 years later. On August 22, 2019, Indian prodigy Anand uploaded a video on YouTube in which he predicted that the world would enter a difficult period from November of that year until April of the following year. Over those 6 months, a plague would spread around the world and global tensions would intensify, exactly as predicted. What do you think after reading those 3 stories? What I think is that a person's fate is fixed from the moment they are born. What kind of people anyone will become and what they will accomplish have already been set by the greatest creator, so do not struggle blindly anymore. Just follow the guide and play with him crazily. It is easy and simple, so what do you say? 心灵鸡汤是一种麻醉品. Chicken soup for the soul is an anesthetic. Xiefeng, December 12, 2020. Translated by Quinn Yu and edited by Kair. Patients would suffer from unbearable pain if doctors did not give them either local anesthetics or even general anesthesia to allow them to remain calm during their surgical procedures. Anesthetics benefit people when they are used properly, but they are terrible when they are abused, overly used on a regular basis. When people are suffering from worry, pain, anxiety, or fear, and we numb their spirits and souls, they will be relieved of their temporary difficulties and survive. But if those parts of them become anesthetized too much, then they will become soulless, walking corpses. Chemicals cannot relieve human pain forever, and spiritual healing cannot eradicate their trouble, pain, anxiety, sorrow, and fear, and will eventually aggravate their sadness even more. Here are 4 examples to analyze several cases of chicken soup for people's souls to think about. When someone lacks self-confidence, the chicken soup for their soul is, "You are your own God." Analysis. This chicken soup for their soul make them feel great for a while, that they can control their own destinies, and that they are the masters of their universes. As a result, people who consume this chicken soup for their souls become blindly optimistic, arrogant, ignorant, shameless, and they will become mental patients over time. When someone feels like no one loves them, the chicken soup for their soul is, you should love yourself. As long as you can do that, then the world will be filled with love. Analysis. The effect of this kind of chicken soup for their soul is to make them create illusions and feel that as long as they love themselves, then the world will love them whether the world really does or not. And that as long as they love themselves, the plot of the whole world will turn over and become captive to their love. The result is that they will become more selfish and completely ignore the cruelty of reality. If a person was originally a slacker, then by loving themselves, they will become lazier and lazier. The more that dogs love themselves, the more they become themselves. When someone is disgusted by their surroundings, the chicken soup for their soul is, you must accept everything. Analysis. After drinking this chicken soup for their soul, they instantly feel that the world is vast, that they rule 100 valleys, and their hearts are widened. As a result, they turn themselves into a dump because dumping sites will absorb everything. When someone feels lost and faces their environments pessimistically, this kind of chicken soup for their soul works well. Look inward, because what you have there decides everything. Analysis. After drinking this kind of chicken soup for their soul, they can calm down and feel that they have been saved. They feel that so long as they look inward, they can solve all the problems that they are facing. The bread will have of, the milk will also have of, as if to become a god is just a piece of cake and the whole world is under their control. The result is that after a long period of seeking inwardly, they will not find villas and supercars or beauty and delicacies, let alone God, Buddha, celestials, saints, or heaven. Gradually, they will finally become expressionless and numb and become more and more separated from the outside world until they become haggard. Such chicken soup for the soul is now full of roads on social media, and this is a sign of the nation's decline because chicken soup for the soul is an anesthetic and will become ineffective after prolonged use. A poor, hungry, emaciated, and malnourished beggar, with a shallow complexion and looking dull, was sitting and worrying on the sidewalk as four wise people brought with advice. A nutritionist came along and said to supplement their nutrition by eating more mutton soup and better eat a bowl of bird's nest porridge every day. After a while, a kind-hearted soul came over and said, "It seems that you are not in good shape. It is said that there is a wise personal trainer in America, so do not waste your time sitting here. Hurry up and fly to America to find that specialist for some conditioning." Later, a master came and said, "Look inside yourself. You have all kinds of delicacies and Manchu Han imperial feasts inside yourself. If you concentrate on seeking inwardly, you will have ample food and clothing." Later, an even more enlightened master came and said not to worry about the present. You are your own God. You must love yourself first, then you will be famous all over the world. Those four people were all offering chicken soup for the beggar's soul. 把有限的人生投入到无限的为众生服务中去. Put your finite life into the infinite service of all living beings. Xiefeng, December 13th, 2020. Translated by Qinyu and edited by Care. The greatest values and most perfect qualities of people are embodied in their service to other living beings. The states, moral levels, and patterns of people are measured completely by the quantity and quality of their service to them. The theories and practices of the world are vast, but the ones with the greatest value are the most profound and are the most direct way to embody the value of life and sublimation of life to serve them wholeheartedly. Only those who do this with all their hearts are entitled to go to heaven. Those who accept the teachings of Christ, Buddha, celestials, saints, sages, and wise ones should share one core belief, that is to devote their finite lives to the infinite service of all living beings. When one decides not to care about their gains and losses or successes from their hearts, but puts the force of their whole body and soul into the infinite service of all living beings, that places them in the company of gods, Buddhas, celestials, and saints, and they will then have embarked completely upon the road to heaven. After that, their minds broaden and their vision becomes vast. Once their roots establish themselves, The way will grow therefrom, and their real spirit, great talent, and virtue will concentrate within them. Their Dharma eyes will then open, and they will see clearly the gods, Buddha, saints, sages, monsters, devils, goblins, ghosts, and evil spirits. They will be able to see what kind of people others are, whether they came from the heaven realm or the animal world, whether one is an ignorant person, a laity, a mortal, a sage, a saint, or a celestial being. They will be able to distinguish truth, falseness, kindness, evil, beauty, and ugliness from complicated phenomena, and will know which way leads to heaven and which way goes to hell. How does one put one's finite life into the infinite service of all living beings? First of all, we should understand what living beings are. They are the lives created by the greatest creator, including all those created by gods and celestial beings according to the greatest creator's will and drawings. These lives include microorganisms, insects, plants, land, water, animals, people, and other various kinds of lives, and serving all these lives is also serving all of their lives. All living beings and the greatest creator are one. So serving the former is ultimately serving the latter. How to serve all living beings? Here are 12 of the many ways that we can serve all living beings. By not thinking of hurting living beings, but of cherishing and taking pity upon them. By not destroying grass, forests, mountains, rivers, or land, but by planting more trees and flowers. By not mistreating or slaughtering animals, eating the meat of wild animals, or destroying their habitats. By creating suitable environments for all living beings. No lives should have their lives cut short. By showing compassion on widows, widowers, orphans, childless couples, protecting the honest, and creating living environments for the toiling masses. By remembering the deaths of Yang Galen's 6 family members every day and thinking about how to avoid the recurrence of such tragedies. By thinking about how to liberate the public from their cages of worry, pain, anxiety, sorrow, and fear, so that everyone can lead happy, joyous, free, blessed, peaceful, and content lives. By letting children enjoy happy childhoods and the elderly enjoy happy old ages. By praising and eulogizing the workers, craftsmen, scientists, artists, selfless people, and saints. By not accumulating material wealth or occupying landed properties, forests, houses, water areas, or money, but by owning nothing. By regarding other people's feelings and opinions as your own and feeling their happiness as your own. By ordaining conscience for heaven and earth, securing life and fortune for the people, propagating lost teachings from past sages, establishing peace for all future generations. When you decide to embark upon the path toward heaven, your heart should be very happy, even excited with passion, because from then on there will be no worries, pain, anxiety, sorrow, or fear, because you will have completely handed yourself to Tao and given in to the cause that you dedicate to and serve. On this road, what others do is their business. You should be neither angry, resentful, nor wrathful, and should not hinder or block others. For example, if someone dumps garbage onto a field, go to clean it up. If they continue dumping, continue cleaning it up. They dump again, you clean up again. We do not stop others from dumping garbage because that is their choice and their way. We have neither reasons nor qualifications to block them from walking their way. Without others dumping their garbage, how would we gain our merits from cleaning it up? Do not expect everyone to be saints, and do not expect evil and barbarism to disappear from the world, let alone expect them to become civilized. The mortal world is the transit station for the upper and lower levels of life. All kinds of life are playing their own script plots here so as to maintain the dynamic balance of life in the universe. Suppose there were only 100 people in the world and 99 of them followed their selfish egos. You must be that one who does not follow yours because the road of the crowd is the road to destruction. Keep a clear mind. Stick to the road of serving all living beings. Take the way of selflessness and realize that selflessness can accomplish oneself. This is the way of heaven. 上帝一直在看着每一个人. The greatest creator is always watching everyone. Xiefeng, January 1st, 2021. Translated by Qin Yu and edited by Care. The Chinese sages warned us that there are divinities watching over us. I perceived the revelation that the greatest creator watches everyone when I became the guide of Life Genuine, from the perspective of material thinking, as well as from those of vision, hearing, tasting, smelling, and touching. We cannot simply understand the phenomenon that the greatest creator is always watching everyone. Nor is it easy to understand that from the perspective of rationality. Can the greatest creator see us all? Can the greatest creator manage it? In the public places of cities, especially in banks, stations, and traffic arteries, cameras are everywhere. All the activities of people within the scope of those cameras are recorded constantly and clearly. If anyone misbehaves within their scope, the records will find them out. Since I became the guide of Life Genuine, all Chanyuan celestials have come into my view. That is to say, I have watched every one of them. Wherever they are and whatever they do, I see them. I hear what everyone says, see what they do, and even know what they think. How can I do this? It is not by Dharma eyes or Buddha eyes, but simply by what they say and do. Every word that anyone says and everything that they do exposes them. If someone says and does nothing, that exposes them even more thoroughly. Why should I stare at everyone? Because I want to be able to implement my guidance consistent with their states of being. Everyone's words and actions show their inner worlds and the depths of their states of being, and I can learn from this who will go to the 1,000-year world, who will go to the 10,000 world, who will go to the Elysium Celestial Islands continent, who will continue to reincarnate, and who will fall into hell. I will adjust my guidance plan according to everyone's states. If some Chanyuan celestials cannot go to heaven no matter how they endeavor to self-cultivate, then I will give up on them as soon as possible and let them fall off my radar screen. This fact tells us that the greatest creator must be watching everyone and guiding us in ways that are not easy for us to detect or understand. The greatest creator is very observant of the words and deeds of each of us and records each of our merits and demerits without omission. From this, we will be given timely rewards and punishments. We can understand the truth that the greatest creator is always watching everyone from these three real-life phenomena. People who raise animals know that however many chickens, ducks, pigs, horses, cows, or sheep they raise, they know almost every detail of each of their animals. Which chickens lay more eggs, which ones lay fewer, which pig is fat, which one is thin, which animals are ill, and which horses have good tempers. It is so clear because the keepers watch the animals constantly. Those who have been teachers know how many students are in each of their classes and the state of each one. You should be very clear if you monitor each student constantly. A couple has 10 children, and they are basically clear about the state of each one because they always monitor them. Some parents might not be able to predict the futures of their children because they do not understand them enough. But that is due to their lack of insight and wisdom, but in any case, they are always watching them. There are so many advantages to becoming aware of the greatest creator always watching everyone. Here are two. The first is that you never dare to speak carelessly, let alone to do anything unruly, because you know that you will be punished if you say or do anything wrong. You will not make mistakes, especially when you are out of everyone's sight. The second is that you will only say the right words and do the right things. And you do not need to worry about anything else because the greatest creator is always watching over you and will surely reward you. As Christ Jesus taught us, do not worry about what you will eat, drink, or wear tomorrow. First ask for the kingdom of the greatest creator and the righteousness of the greatest creator. If at every moment, especially when no one sees us, we think about the greatest creator watching us, then we will no longer dare to talk nonsense or act recklessly. In this way, life will be smoother and we will be further from hell and closer to heaven. What is more is that when we think like that, we will lose all of our worries, anxieties, and fears, and our lives will follow very wonderful paths. Realizing that the greatest creator is always watching oneself is quite different from not realizing it. If you do not believe it, try it for a period of time and learn its effect. 去生命绿洲不仅要有教养和修养，还要有涵养。A good upbringing and self-cultivation are required in the new oasis for life, and self-restraint is also required. Xiefeng, February 8, 2017. Translated by Qinyu and edited by Peter. Upbringing is civilized politeness that is learned from family, school, and society. Self-cultivation is a civilized attitude towards others, which is developed from the level of theory, knowledge, art, thought, and other aspects that a person possesses. Self-restraint is the ability which a person with profound morals possesses to control one's emotions. We have already talked about upbringing and self-cultivation. This article will focus on the issue of self-restraint. A person who can't control his emotions is a person who has no self-restraint. This, pointing out others' defects and deficiencies, tornado in our home showed me that most of our brothers and sisters have self-restraint, which is mainly reflected in the calmness and humility of accepting suggestions and expressing gratitude when others point out their defects and deficiencies. If others point out our defects and deficiencies, not only will we not accept it, but we will also resist it and defend ourselves. This is a serious lack of self-restraint. People who lack upbringing will be thought of with disgust. People who lack self-cultivation will be despised, and people who lack self-restraint will be kept at a respectful distance. Even if the defects and deficiencies that others point out are not in line with the facts, if you defend yourself or resist, or even yell and talk about it everywhere, you are showing no self-restraint. It is clear that you have been misunderstood and misinterpreted, but if you must still accept it with a modest and calm attitude and express your gratitude, that is the expression of profound self-restraint. We can only sail in deep water, and only when we have self-restraint can people respect us and be willing to walk with us. How can we have self-restraint? Set up Mahayana's wish, great vow. Follow the ancient and modern saints. Do not treat yourself as noble. Do not lose your temper. Do not bully honest people. Do not make fun of others. Do not be unreasonable. Do not be unforgiving. Do not make casual promises. Do not impose your will on others. Do not cry and shout. Do not have loose lips. Do not shut yourself up. Do not ask for help easily. Do not make trouble without a reason. Do not interrupt others casually. Do not always teach others. Do not behave badly. Do not act grumpily. Do not look sloppy and messy. And do not hurt people with words. The future new oasis for life will no longer be like the original second home. You cannot stay long without a good upbringing, self-cultivation, and self-restraint. Please make the effort. 付出奉献不要带有目的. Give and devote unconditionally. Xiefeng. February 21st, 2017. Translated by Qinyu and edited by Peter, the devotion that comes from selfless almsgiving is not done to attain any material object or purpose. When it is because there is no object and purpose to this devotion, the merit of formless almsgiving is the greatest form of devotion, which to some can be inconceivable. There are various forms of devotion. Anyone who selflessly gives away one's material, spiritual, and soul wealth shows devotion. Devotion without a purpose is impossible for ordinary people. The devotion of the world has a utilitarian purpose. After giving, people have a kind of expectation, expecting to achieve one's own goal, expecting to realize one's own ideal. The devotion of those with the Mahayana wish is not purposeful. They just give and never expect to get anything in return or achieve any goal. Devotion for a purpose is because you don't understand the way of the greatest creator. The way of the greatest creator is just and fair. If you don't believe in the greatest creator and the fairness of the way of the greatest creator, you will not be able to be devoted without some purpose. Only by being selfless can you reach your goal, and only by being selfless can you accomplish this yourself. The more selfless you are, the more you can enjoy everything. The more selfless you are, the more you can experience happiness and freedom. If you are truly unselfish and selfless, you are a celestial being or Buddha, or even a god. The sum of the positive and negative energies of the universe is zero. The more you give, the more you will receive and enjoy. As long as you give, your receiving won't go away, you will definitely receive. If it weren't like this, the universe would have disappeared long ago. To obtain the blessings of the kingdom of heaven, we must give all our life. If we want to get the blessings of the kingdom of heaven by just giving a little, it definitely won't do. We need to give ourselves completely. Don't expect to get anything or achieve any goal. Just pay and give and leave the rest to the management of Tao, if you believe that Tao is fair. In reality, we are often confused by a phenomenon, that is, many people seem to have paid but did not get anything in return, so they feel that the Tao is unreliable. Since the Tao is unreliable, they use human ingenuity, dexterity, and cleverness, which is the cognition of the mortal eye. If you have the Dharma eye and the Buddha eye, you will see that once you have devoted yourself, you will get a corresponding gain. If you pay by money, you may not get money, you may get health and safety, or your bad causal trajectory might be changed. You may get your wealth stored in heaven, which you will enjoy in heaven after your death, and so on. We should give and make devotion without considering what others will do. You give yours and others give theirs. Don't hope to get compliments or rewards from others. The troubles and pains of the world come from always expecting and demanding from others. Once their goal is not achieved, they will be angry, complain, resent, explode with rage, doubt, blame themselves, and regret, so on and so on. How could they climb to the pinnacle of life and life? I love you, whether you love me or not. To love is my business. Not to love is your business. If I build a Xanadu is my business. If you have a powerful force to demolish it, it is your business. I do not dispute, argue, or confront. You do your business, I mind mine. I have no complaints, no regrets, no hate, and no pity for what I have done. I have devoted my whole life, but if my life is still difficult and suffering hardships or even poverty-stricken, I still have no complaints, no regrets, no hate, no pity, because I firmly believe in the greatest creator, the just arrangement of Tao. No matter what Tao arranges, I will willingly accept it. Whether I can receive or not, it is not something I should worry about. It's the business of Tao's arrangement and management. What I need to alert myself to is, have I made devotion unselfishly? If I have no material wealth, have I devoted my spiritual wealth? If I have no spiritual wealth, have I contributed soul wealth? If I don't give anything, how can I have a better tomorrow and future? I am an honest person. I don't have deep wisdom, profound knowledge, and impressive skills. I don't have a backer that can make me rise to the top. I only have a one-track mind, which is my firm belief that the greatest creator is perceptive of the slightest. The Tao has a fair arrangement for everything, and that selfless devotion will lead to a glorious tomorrow and future. 让我们活在精神心灵世界里. Let us live in the spiritual world and soul world. Xiefeng, April 5, 2017. Translated by Qinyu and edited by Peter. There are three worlds in life: the material world, the spiritual world, and the soul world. The world in which people are busy with food, clothing, shelter, transportation, birth, old age, sickness, death, fame and fortune, and status is the material world. The world in which people work hard for happiness, joy, freedom, and blessedness is the spiritual world. The world in which people pay and devote selflessly and unselfishly for joy, bliss, light, and auspiciousness is the soul world. A person, as long as he has always been busy with food, clothing, shelter, birth, old age, sickness, death, money, power, fame, and profit, is living in the material world. A person, as long as he is working hard for happiness, joy, freedom, and blessedness, is living in the spiritual world. A person, as long as he is selflessly, unselfishly, and joyfully paying and devoting, must be living in the soul world. The material world is heavy, the spiritual world is light, and the soul world is ethereal. Animals live in the material world, humans live in the spiritual world, and celestial beings, Buddhas, and angels live in the soul world. The life that lives in trouble, pain, anxiety, sorrow, worry, and fear for a lifetime lives in the material world. The life that lives a happy, joyous, free, and blessed life for a lifetime lives in the spiritual world. The life that lives in joy, bliss, unrestraint, and elegance for a lifetime lives in the soul world. No matter how you live, as long as you live in the material world, your life destined to be a tragedy. No matter how you live, as long as you live in the spiritual world, your life is destined to be a farce. No matter how you live, as long as you live in the soul world, your life is destined to be like paradise. Without rich soul wealth, it is better to live in the spiritual world. Without rich spiritual wealth, it is better to live in the material world. A life with rich soul wealth must be rich in spiritual and material wealth, and a life rich in spiritual wealth must be rich in material wealth. Material wealth supports spiritual wealth, and spiritual wealth supports soul wealth. Soul wealth will bring spiritual wealth, and spiritual wealth will bring material wealth. In fact, as a human being, It is impossible not to live in the material world because of its physical existence. Therefore, we must take care of both material wealth and spiritual and soul wealth. However, you must have a focus. If you focus on material wealth, it is equivalent to living in the material world. If you focus on spiritual wealth, it is equivalent to living in the spiritual world. If you focus on soul wealth, it is equivalent to living in the soul world. Between money, affection, and sex, nature, which one are you willing to choose? 做人要有一点宗教情怀. As humans, we need to have a little religious sentiment. Xiefeng, April 20th, 2017. Translated by Qinyu and edited by Peter. Religious sentiment is the ability to trust and surrender to a certain power, personality, or theory unconditionally, undoubtedly, and devoutly. It can make people feel tranquil and peaceful in their hearts, make people feel broad-minded and detached, not afraid of the roughness and difficulties on the roads of life, and make people have endless beautiful reveries and longings for the future. Let me first talk about my own religious sentiment. I believe in the greatest creator completely. I often crawl under the feet of the greatest creator and feel that it is the most beautiful experience in life to crawl under the feet of the greatest creator. If the greatest creator rubs his feet on my head, I will feel that it is a great glory. If the greatest creator touches my head with his hand, I will die of happiness. Of course, I don't have enough merit and virtue to let the greatest creator touch my head, so I dare not expect it. I have complete trust in Christ Jesus and Buddha Shakyamuni. I will never doubt their teachings. I often stay with Jesus. It is the feeling of a grandson staying with his loving grandfather. The holy light shines on me. My heart is transparent and spotless. I am extremely peaceful and calm. I often spend time with Shakyamuni. It is the feeling of birds flying in the woods, roosting and singing, and the feeling of eagles flying freely in the endless blue sky. Far away, deep, magnificent, solemn, auspicious, and loving. I feel so happy. I'm a little bit naughty while staying with Lao Tzu. It's common to pull his beard. Drinking and acting shamelessly with him is also full of fun. But in my heart, I admire him incomparably. What he wants me to do, I will do it without hesitation. He is so kind, amiable, natural, peaceful, also humorous, unrestrained, and elegant. It is precisely because of my religious sentiment that I have embarked on the road of establishing Life Genuine since 2001. In the beginning, it was not called Life Genuine, but the journey to transcending time and space. Since then, for 17 years, I have not stopped going forward, working hard every day, never slacking off. I never consider whether I will encounter trouble or even be decapitated if I go this way. Over the past 17 years, I have experienced countless setbacks and blows, and it is common for me to be insulted, abused, and framed. Some kind people have reminded me, be careful. Be careful of being thrown into jail by the government. I have said that everything runs in the Tao. I have given my life to the greatest creator and my life to the management of Tao. As for what retribution or result I will get, that is not something I should consider. I just follow the will of the greatest creator and the teachings of gods, Buddhas, celestial beings, and saints. As for whether I might be arrested and put in prison or even beheaded, I don't care. I am more than 60 years old, and I have lived peacefully and healthfully to the age of 60. I am grateful and contented. In fact, I still think that I'm just a child, and playing naughtily and jokingly with other Chanyuan celestials is still my sense of fun, appeal, and entertainment. Having religious sentiments or not can make people completely different from each other. With a little religious sentiment, people live steadfastly, sincerely, honestly, ingeniously, peacefully, tranquilly, abundantly, calmly, and transcendentally. If people don't have any religious sentiments, they will live worriedly, impetuously, anxiously, fearfully, suspiciously, and distrustfully everywhere. Always on guard and vigilant, not tranquil in mind. Always with the feeling of sitting on pins and needles, or complacent and arrogant, bluffing, feeling that their talents are unrecognized, the world is unfair. In short, they cannot get any peace of mind. People are willing to surrender if they have a bit of religious sentiment. Surrender is not a bad thing. I surrender to the greatest creator, surrender to Jesus, Shakyamuni, and have even surrendered to Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva many times. I don't think there is anything wrong with that. Their EQ, IQ, and SQ are all higher than mine, so why not surrender? When surrendering to the greatest creator, gods, Buddhas, and celestial beings, on the contrary, I feel that the world is vast. I am free and at peace, so why not surrender? I am even willing to surrender to an ordinary person. If he is selfless, unselfish, has lofty ideals, and is working hard on putting them into practice. If I surrender, I have no doubts. But what if the person you surrendered to is wrong? My philosophy is this. Since his EQ, IQ, and SQ are higher than mine, he cannot be wrong, and even if he is wrong, what does it matter? Wouldn't I make a mistake if I do the same with my EQ, IQ, and SQ? Besides, what is wrong? What is right? What was wrong at one time is totally right several years or several hundred years later, and what was thought to be right at another time is totally wrong after decades of years or several hundred years. People do cultivate some religious sentiment. We have nothing great in ourselves. Don't think that we have understood the mysteries of the universe, and we can guide the world just because we have some skills. When facing the universe, we are too small. We can't tell the difference between good and evil, right and wrong. The universe, the grand script, is too complicated, too mysterious, and too subtle. I have studied with great concentration for 17 years, and still feel that I have only got to know and understand a drop of water in the ocean. Only pious belief, with a little religious sentiment, can lead us to a smooth road and let us step into a bright future. 随天性而行, living in accordance with our nature. Xiefeng, April 19, 2018. Translated by Qin Yu and edited by Peter. Nature is the nature of our origin, which is the original characteristic that the greatest creator gives to each life. To follow one's nature is to live according to the nature of our origin. Why should we follow our nature? Because only by living according to our nature of origin can you live according to your true colors and live your life as yourself. Only by living as yourself can you live a life that will not have been in vain and that will conform to the Creator's intention. A person is a complex part of society. A person's life is restricted by various social factors. If he cannot break through the shackles of these various factors and live according to his own nature, his life will be a tragedy. Not many people really live out their lives as themselves, and everyone cannot get what they really yearn for because our words and deeds are restricted and our inner desires are suppressed by reality. In this sense, people are slaves of factors related to themselves, not the masters of their own lives. What factors restrict one's nature? Many. All factors that relate to oneself more or less restrict the blooming of one's nature, such as parents, children, husband and wife, siblings, culture, wave, groups to which one belongs, such as companies, political parties, religious groups, and governments, country, etc. Next, I will only talk about the constraints imposed on human nature by the three factors of husband and wife, culture, and country. All married people understand that since you have a husband or wife, your free nature is restricted, and you can no longer do whatever you want with your free will. If you want to give some money to your parents, is that okay? If you want to date a classmate of the opposite sex, is it okay? If you want to sit by the beach alone on Sunday, is it okay? If you want to eat steamed buns every day, is it okay? If you want to, so on and so on, the marriage will not work. You have to take care of the other person's emotions, you have to consider the other person's requirements, and you have to consider the other person's habits and hobbies. You are no longer yourself. You can no longer find yourself, and you are a mixture of yourself and the other person. Everyone has grown up in the culture of their own nationality. Culture has already subtly infiltrated our blood cells and our consciousness. We have already become slaves of our own culture before we know it. It has already invisibly controlled our horizon and thinking and restricted our words and deeds. The cultural devil has long been lurking in our values, outlook on life, and outlook on the universe. Its invisible power controls our thoughts, our hands, and feet, and we are totally unaware that our own nature has long been ruled by the culture that we are familiar with. For example, find one's origin, return to the birth family. Fallen leaves return to the roots. To revert to one's origin is a component of the Chinese culture. Under the control of the invisible power of this culture, people like to continue writing their family trees, and the strong desire to glorify their ancestors has always been growing in their bones. Even if they have lived in a foreign country for several generations, they can't forget that their bones are to be buried in their ancestors' grave after death. The descendants of the British Empire have the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and other territories, while the descendants of China have been bound to their homeland for generations. Even though there are more than 50 million overseas Chinese scattered around the world today, everyone's heart is still concerned about their hometown, and not many people really treat and help to build the foreign land they are working and living in as their own home. Therefore, there has been a black president in the United States, but there will not be a Chinese president, because the Chinese always treat themselves as guests living in a foreign country. They are temporarily living under another's roof, and they still want to return to their homeland. If they have earned some money, they cannot forget to buy real estate back in China. The invisible control power of culture affects the thinking of every Chinese and makes their thinking go around in circles, and thus they cannot get out of the Egypt of the spirit. The state is another important factor that restricts humans' nature. With the existence of the state, we are endowed with the role of being citizens. As citizens, we have to bear the requirements and restrictions of the state on its citizens. If there are things that the state does not allow us to do, then we can't do them. If there are things that the state doesn't allow us to say, then we can't say them. This is called, you are only allowed to behave properly, and you are not allowed to be unruly in words and deeds. In this way, your nature will not be displayed at all. If you live in a democratic and civilized country, you have a little more freedom and a little more choice. If you live in an autocratic and barbaric country, your nature is basically suppressed, not to mention your choices. So even reposting articles in the online WeChat site is banned, and one might even be put to jail for this, let alone be permitted to have any ideas and innovations. Therefore, from the single factor of the country, people cannot live out their nature. In addition to the above three factors restricting the display of human nature, it is also difficult for people who are working for their survival to follow their nature. All those who work for the country, all those who work for the bosses of private enterprises to earn wages, and all those who fight for the future of their children are those who have to work for their survival. Almost none of them is free. A person without freedom, of course, is not able to follow his nature. There are different levels of lives. We can't say that pigs and people are of the same level of life, can we? In life, celestial beings and Buddhas are higher than human beings, because celestial beings and Buddhas do not have lives that are controlled by family, country, culture, political party, religion, and other factors. They follow their nature. The reason why we should follow our nature is to sublimate the quality of our life and let ourselves live like celestial beings and Buddhas. How do we follow our nature? Following one's nature means throwing away all the things that restrict one's nature. If you can't throw them away in reality, you should throw them away in your consciousness first, and then gradually throw them away bit by bit. This is the meaning of what Lao Tzu said in the Tao Te Ching. The student of knowledge aims at learning day by day. The student of Tao aims at losing day by day. By continual losing, one reaches the state of doing nothing, laissez-faire. He who conquers the world often does so by doing nothing. Secondly, do what you like, do what you are good at. Don't lust for money, don't lust for power, don't lust for fame, don't lust for family, don't lust for the glory of your ancestors, don't lust for your country, don't lust for any organization or group. Only be obsessed with what you like and what you are good at. Difficult? Of course, it is difficult. If it was not difficult, there would be celestial beings and Buddhas everywhere. If it was not difficult, the earth would have already become a paradise. 情商智商灵商 EQ, emotional quotient, IQ, intelligence quotient, SQ, spiritual quotient, Xiefeng. May 20th, 2018, at Lac La Hatch Lake, BC, Canada. Translated by Chinyu and edited by Peter. People have three quotients, namely emotional quotient, EQ, intelligence quotient, IQ, and spiritual quotient, SQ. EQ refers to a person's ability to control his emotions and deal with the relationships that he has with others, society, and nature, as well as having the courage and boldness to overcome difficulties. IQ refers to a person's ability to analyze, judge, and summarize the essence of a phenomenon, and then use this information to solve a problem. SQ refers to a person's comprehension by intuition and ability to respond to various information stimuli, and his sensitivity to perception, to enlightenment, and the epiphany of a certain phenomenon. If a person can maintain a good relationship with people around him with few exceptions, that proves that a person has a high EQ. If he can get along with anyone and have a close relationship with them, the EQ of this person is the highest. Also, if one is not afraid when facing difficulties and crises and still has the courage to maintain a good mental state, this person must have a high EQ. On the contrary, if one cannot handle interpersonal relationships well and is always out of place with people around him and feels discouraged and depressed when he encounters setbacks and blows, it proves that the person's EQ is very low. If a person's heart is very calm and his life is in order, when in the face of difficulties and dangers in life, he can maintain a good attitude, hold on to his beliefs, and actively seek ways and means to solve problems, that proves that he has a high IQ. If a person can't distinguish between priorities in life and his life is messy and disorganized, that proves that his ability to analyze, judge, and summarize things and phenomena is low. And if he is helpless in the face of difficulties and complains about others, there is no doubt that this person's IQ is very low. If a person is agile and lively, is good at understanding truth from all the phenomena encountered, discovering another level of a realm, and can quickly adjust his mentality, state, and direction, it proves that this person has a high SQ. Conversely, if a person is arrogant, obsessed with his own opinions, and always believes that he is correct, there is no doubt that the person's SQ is very low. How can we improve our EQ, IQ, and SQ? The way to improve one's EQ is to turn to love and let everything and everyone in the world become the object of your love. The way to improve one's IQ is to listen and learn, to listen to the teachings of the sages, listen to the sounds of nature, to study, expand your own thinking horizon to the greatest extent, and not to limit your consciousness to a certain field inflexibly. The way to improve one's SQ is to cultivate faith and religious sentiments. Remember, without faith, there won't be a high spiritual quotient. A simple way to test your EQ, IQ, and SQ. EQ. If you have good relationships with people you know, your EQ is high. If you have many conflicts with people you know, your EQ is low. IQ. If you feel that life is full of joy, your IQ is high. If you feel that life is full of troubles and pain, your IQ is low. SQ. If you believe that you don't need knowledge, your SQ is high. If you think of yourself as capable and intelligent, you have low SQ. 走出人性的雾霾. Out of the smog of human nature. Xiefeng. July 29, 2018. Translated by Qinyu and edited by Peter. Under the smog, the sky is dim. The ground is low and deep. The sun is weak. The mountains are gloomy, and the rivers are crying. The species are weeping. Everything is desolate, melancholy, and sorrowful. If you don't get out of the smog, your spirit will become weakened. Your soul will become wearisome. Your body will become sick, and your future will be like a desert. The deepest smog is the smog of human nature. Under the smog of human nature, psychology will be deviant. The truth will be twisted. Good and evil will be disguised. The status quo will be distorted. People will be at a loss and won't know what to do. Humanity will get lost, and their direction will become confused. Falsehoods, evil, and ugliness will become rampant and unimpeded. Truth, goodness, and beauty will be shackled. With a little carelessness, people will fall into the wrong path, fall into hell, cause a sad ending since a single slip may cause lasting sorrow. The smog of humanity originates from the pollution of human nature. This nature is pure, bright, and spotless, like a mirror. But people have to eat, wear clothing, have shelter, live, grow old, become sick, and die. People need to be safe, be respected, and to take care of their blood relationships, to show their ability and talents, to glorify their ancestors, and to leave behind a good name forever. Therefore, people will not be at peace. They must struggle, pursue money, power, status, fame and fortune, and beauty. In this way, the mirror is crept by dust, human nature is polluted. Anxiety, worries, resentment, anger, fear, contending, confrontation, illegality, and other sediments arise, forming a smog over human nature. Under the smog of human nature, chaos clusters and contradictions multiply, confrontation is intensified, and people will be trapped in the smog of tornadoes, and it will become hard to distinguish directions. Because people are impetuous, it is difficult for them to be quiet. Every day, they are involuntarily submerged in a sea of countless information, drifting along, rushing around like ants on a hot pan. With their moods swinging and their thinking confused, they struggle in a haggard state of mind. For a while, they are ecstatic and in high spirits, seeming to have become the masters of life. For a while, they complain and resent the heaven and earth, fall into a mixture of grievances and anger, and become listless and depressed. For a while, they chuckle to themselves. For a while, they get dispirited. For a while, they feel like they know everything in the world. For a while, they feel like they have fallen into a bottomless abyss and don't know what to do. The irony is that the more severe the smog of human nature becomes, the more people will have the feeling of everyone is sleeping but I am awake. But when a wave hits them, they will find that they have been drawn into the mud of a clever person who may become the victim of his own ingenuity, trapped in a prison, or have been abandoned by the times. One should get out of the smog of human nature. In the smog of human nature, you cannot tell goodness from evil, and cannot distinguish what is true from what is false. You reap beans from melon seeds, and reap melons from bean seeds. You can't see any light or hope. Those who are free and unrestrained are not celestial beings, but spirits and monsters. Those who are severely attacked are not devils but Buddhas. At this time, you must light up the sacred lamp that is in your heart, remain true to the bottom line of your human nature, and you must not go with the wave of the times. And do not trust the instigation and incitement from any information. Guard your own field, don't try to fish in troubled waters, and don't take any chances, because when the smog clears, the purity of the earth will be restored. All the muddy water will sink into the abyss. What belongs to the greatest creator will return to the greatest creator, and what belongs to Caesar will return to Caesar. A pure heart will suffer under the haze of human nature. The more you suffer, the more you should keep the sky of your soul clear. Reduce desire, restrain impulse, communicate more with Jesus, Shakyamuni, and Lao Tzu, and don't try to look for shortcuts. Don't worry. The more anxious, the more disorderly you are, the more you should let your impetuous mind calm down. Watch the development and evolution of the situation. Firmly believe that the sandstorm will pass, and believe that light will come after the darkness. Karma is the iron law of the universe. Don't focus on one thing, one time, or one life. What you give and what you receive is always equal. Those who do not want their faults to manifest themselves in the light should ensure that nothing amiss lurks in their darkest closets. Your elation today cannot avoid tomorrow's wretched circumstances. In this life, things may have occurred according to your wishes, but it will be difficult to protect your next life from being shackled and slaughtered. When competing in the time of a flintlight, what is a long time? When contending for the space as big as snails' horns, what is success? Remain undisturbed whether granted favor or subjected to humiliation. Watch leisurely flowers blooming and falling, with no intention to leave or stay, but follow the clouds scudding along. Push aside the smog of the world with no completion of flame and ice existing in your chest. Eliminate the contempt and parsimony in your heart, and the fragrance of flowers and chirping of birds will always appear. If your heart is luminous, there is a blue sky even in a dark room. If your thoughts are dark, there are ghosts even in the day. Between ignorance and cleverness, I stick to ignorance but remove cleverness, to leave some righteousness to return to the world. I'd rather refuse riotous profusion than choose indifference, to leave a clear name in the universe. Broken walls where foxes sleep, deserted platforms where rabbits walk on, all were places of singing and dancing in previous days. Yellow flowers covered with cold dew, withering grasses looming in the mist, all belong to the battlefield of the old times. Who won? Who lost? Who was complacent? Who was frustrated? Don't live in the present, but live in the future. When looking at the future, the mountains and rivers will be splendid, the weather will be favorable, the worthy person fully utilizes their talents, the whole world is as one family. Everywhere will be Xanadu, poetic and picturesque, and happy laughter and cheerful voices will always be overwhelming. The suffocatingly beautiful era that mankind dreams of is approaching all civilized people. 以天国品质待人, treating people with heavenly standards. Xiefeng. August 21st, 2018. Translated by Qin Yu. Edited by Peter. The Life-Echanuan International family operates A, B, and B Hotel in British Columbia, Canada. This is how we operate. Guests either book their rooms by phone or on the Booking.com website. Their names and phone numbers are required when booking, so that we can check them when the guests arrive. After the guest's arrival on the date of their reservation, we first ask for their names, then lead them to the booked rooms. We do not check their passports or ID cards, nor do we have a registration procedure, nor are they required to pay first, let alone to be asked to make a deposit. The next morning, after having eaten the rich breakfast that we prepared for them, the guests return to their rooms to pack their things, then take the room key to us, pay their money, and leave. Before they leave, we never check their rooms to see if there is anything missing, damaged, or soiled. We then wave goodbye to every guest when they leave. We feel that this is the most decent, the most civilized, and the simplest way to treat our guests. The basic point of treating guests in this way is to treat every guest as a well-cultivated and highly civilized person, to fully trust them and to believe that they will not take anything from the hotel or damage anything, soil anything, or sneak away without paying for the room after receiving the service, let alone engage in illegal or criminal activities in the room. Treating guests like this is also very risky because things that are soiled are difficult to clean, things that are damaged are difficult to reuse, things that are stolen are difficult to recover, and it is difficult to recover the room rate if guests sneak away without paying. After several months of this business practice, unpleasant things have indeed occurred. For example, some guests made the bed sheets and pillowcases very dirty, so they could not be cleaned and had to be thrown away. Some bath towels have been left very dirty and were difficult to clean, and we have no idea how people have used them. Except for these examples, no other uncivilized behavior has occurred. When operating in this way, all the losses have to be borne by ourselves and cannot be borne by the guests. Many people have suggested that we should do the following things. 1. When the guests register, check their passports or ID cards. 2. Let the guests pay a deposit and the room fee before moving in. 3. Check the room before the guest leaves to see if anything in the room is missing, damaged, or stained. If so, the guest should pay compensation. 4. Make up detailed hotel rules, including compensation rules, for the reference and compliance of guests. But we have not done the 4 things suggested in the previous paragraph. Why? Because since what we want to create is an international family, we must treat every guest as a family member. Of all human beings, 90, 80, or 99% are not bad people, but good people. You cannot treat the 90, 80, or 99% of people as bad because 1 of 2% are bad people. In other words, we cannot apply the same measures to prevent problems by bad people to all the good people. The guests cannot be expected to be vandals and barbarians, let alone criminals. This is Canada, a highly civilized country, and everything should be carried out in the most civilized way. Trust every guest. Any measures of distrust will make civilized people sad. Trust will give people a sense of self-respect and dignity. Trust will make people more civilized and loyal. Doubt will make people more brutal and cunning. Because we are Life-Echanuan, we are to set a civilized example for mankind, and we cannot imitate and apply traditional methods and measures. If we also adopt the previous methods of other people, then we are not the Chanyuan Celestials who are to initiate a new era. The sum of positive and negative energies in the universe is 0, and what you pay and what you get is always equal, so there is no question of loss. So we don't worry about someone taking things, damaging things, making things dirty, or sneaking away without paying the room rate. Everything should be developed in the most simplistic way, not in a more complicated way. To be human, one must not be too shrewd, and to get something accomplished, one shouldn't be too calculating. In the past 10 years, the new oasis for life, previously the second home, created by Life-Echanuan has been able to achieve no one would pocket anything found on the ground, and doors are not bolted at night. No theft, no crime, no quarrels, no fighting, no mutual harm. Everyone is happy, joyous, free, and blessed. This is because we have followed the 800 values for the new era human being. Today and in the future, we should continue to walk along the road map to heaven and treat people with heavenly standards. 人生加油站, the gas station of life. Xiefeng. October 26, 2018. Translated by Qin Yu. Edited by Peter. On the path of life, everyone will sometimes face weakness, discouragement, fatigue, exhaustion, lack of energy, and may even feel that they are useless and wish to end their life journey. At this time, they need to go to the gas station of life to cheer themselves up. In December 2016, with 3 local Aboriginals as guides, I went to Santo Island in Vanuatu to find a source of water. We were walking in the virgin forest off the beaten path. Each of the 3 Aboriginals had a machete and cut through the thorns to open the way. Foyi and I followed. When the hill was very steep, we trudged on hand in hand. After 6 hours of walking like this, my mouth was dry, my legs were weak, and I felt that I couldn't make it back to the station. At that moment, one of the Aboriginal people cut a wild sugarcane, peeled it with a machete, and handed me half of it. I took a bite and chewed it. When I had finished eating half of the wild sugarcane, I suddenly felt completely refreshed. My steps became light and I was full of confidence again, and we easily returned to the station. Half of the wild sugarcane was the fuel from the gas station of life. In October 2018, I drove from Lac La Hatch in British Columbia to Vancouver. After driving for 100 kilometers, I felt drowsy. Although I realized it was dangerous to drive in this state, I kept on driving for more than 100 kilometers. I finally stopped at a gas station in a small town at the boundary of Highway number 97 and number 1 and had a cup of hot coffee. About 10 minutes later, I was in a good state of mind and my drowsiness disappeared completely. It felt good to drive and I drove more than 200 kilometers to Vancouver at one go, and then drove around the city for nearly 3 hours in good spirits. That cup of hot coffee is the fuel you add from the gas station of life. There are 3 kinds of fuel in the gas station of life: material, spiritual, and soul fuel. If you are physically weak, you need to add material fuel. If your brain is weak, you need to add spiritual fuel. If you're mentally weak, you need to add soul fuel. Material fuel can be half of a wild sugar cane, a cup of coffee, a bowl of hot soup, a few pieces of chocolate, a newly purchased pair of shoes, a hot bath, etc. Spiritual fuel can be meeting with a good friend, a reunion of long-lost family members, a gathering of friends, a warm call, a word of encouragement and praise, a message of concern, etc. The fuel of the soul can be admiring a beautiful landscape, visiting a master whom you respect very much in your heart, reading and comprehending the teachings of Jesus or Shakyamuni or Laozi or other gods, Buddhas and celestials, making beautiful and fulfilling love, and so on. The way of life is full of ups and downs, and no one can avoid encountering difficulties at certain moments and even wanting to commit suicide. At this time, stop walking for a while, calm down, and see if you can find a gas station of life to refuel. Even just refueling a little bit can keep you going for a while until you get to the next stop. On the path of life, everyone will encounter difficulties that they can't overcome. Sometimes it can be hard for you to work them out. At this time, go and refuel in the gas station of life. If necessary, ask others to cheer you up. Some of the difficulties that seems great to you are just a matter of slight effort in the eyes of others. A little help from others will clear the haze of your sky instantly, and your life will be full of light again. When you are exhausted, haggard, your hope is shattered, and lack confidence, don't despair. Go to the gas station of life and refuel. The gas at the gas station of life is not expensive. It is nothing more than half a wild sugar cane, a cup of coffee, a word, or a love affair. May your gas station of life have enough fuel to ensure that you drive the car of life to heaven. Xinling Zhizhan, the Battle of the Soul. Xiefeng. December 26, 2018. Translated by Qin Yu. Edited by Peter. The conflict of consciousness between 2 diametrically opposed viewpoints within one person is the battle of the soul. Should I commit suicide? Should I go to see him? Should I resist? Should I get a divorce? Should I resign? Should I change my job? Should I cooperate with him? Is he reliable? What if I get fooled? Should I borrow money to buy a car? Should I contact her? Should I join the organization? Should I be a vegetarian? Should I run away from home? Should I believe him? And so on. Such questions always contradict, interweave, and cause conflict in our hearts. This is the battle of the soul. The battle of the soul is a battle within oneself. Many times, the battle of the soul is simply a cruel battle of life and death. From the outside, one can seem calm and peaceful, but inside his world is miserable. It is calm on the surface, but the fighting is fierce in one's heart. Superficially, it is a prevailing mood of harmony, but there is anger burning in one's heart. On the surface, one is glamorous, but one's heart is bleeding. Two diametrically opposed values are fighting desperately in one's consciousness, and only when one side defeats the other can one win a short period of inner peace, relieve mental stress, and breathe a breath of fresh air. If the two values are evenly matched, one will either commit suicide, or become dispirited and haggard, or even sick. The battle of the soul is essentially a battle of values. Values are a trade-off, a choice, when encountering issues, such as the eating of meat. Should one eat meat? Some people think that we should not eat meat while others think we should. This is the result of a choice between two different values. When a person cannot decide whether to eat or not to eat meat, the battle of the soul begins, and his heart becomes full of contradictions and pain. We can use the conflicts between husbands and wives to analyze the battle of the soul. If either side of the husband and wife cheats, there is going to be a battle of the soul going on inside the other person. For example, a wife has an emotional and sexual relationship with a man other than her husband. Once the husband finds out, what will he do? Kill her? Divorce her? Beat her up? Stop talking to her? Swallow the bitter pill in silence and endure it? Tolerate it? Be happy? Encourage it? How to decide, how to choose, all depends on values. If you stick to the traditional concept, it will definitely lead to a scene of putting the cat among the pigeons and a sorrowful separation. If you feel that it doesn't matter, you can continue the husband and wife relationship, allowing human nature to overflow naturally. If you feel that your wife having an affair just created an excuse and reason for you to have an affair, you will secretly rejoice. But when we don't know how to choose, the battle of the soul begins. Our hearts will become full of pain and contradictions. It is like a confusion in our hearts, a fishbone stuck in the throat, being overcast with haze, a cold wind blowing, being full of doubts and having many feelings scratching at the heart. The battle of the soul is being staged every moment. 1 million people die by suicide every year in the world. A person who commits suicide has lost the battle of the soul. It is estimated that the number of people who attempt suicide is much higher, which shows the severity of the battle of the soul. Everyone, if their minds are normal, can't escape the battlefield of the battle of the soul. They fight with themselves almost every day. Only the severity of the tragedy differs. The battle of the soul is a battle of faith, a battle of values, a battle of the outlook on life, a battle of the outlook on life, and a battle of worldviews. Just like the Sino-US trade war, from its appearance it is a war caused by the imbalance of trade, but in essence it is a war between two different systems, and the core of the systems lies in the difference in values. Therefore, the core of the Sino-US trade war is a battle of values, so the core of all wars is a battle of souls. Where the values are the same, there will be no battle of souls. Where there is no battle of souls, there will be no contradictions and conflicts, let alone wars. The war I am talking about here is not only limited to the battle between two armies. Where there are conflicts and fighting between two sides, there are wars. The conflict within oneself is a kind of war, and the quarrel between husband and wife is also a kind of war. The phenomenon of vying with each other, cheating, and intriguing against each other in officialdom, business, love, gambling, and many other fields is actually war after war. There is no battle of the soul in heaven. If you want to eliminate the battle of the soul, you can only do it by entering heaven. There is no battle of the soul in the heart of Buddha and of celestial beings. If you want to eliminate the battle of the soul, you can only do it by becoming a Buddha or celestial being. Before becoming a Buddha or celestial being, or entering heaven, one needs to find the pure land of the soul. Where is the pure land of the soul? It is not in money, power, fame, profit, sex, in marriage, family, political parties, religion, and country. It is in the new mode of production and life created by Life Genuine. If you want to do this by pursuing and owning more money, more real estate, a higher reputation, greater power, and better-looking people, not only will you not be able to eliminate the battle of the soul, but it will aggravate the tragic situation of it. If you want to achieve the goal of eradicating the battle of the soul by strengthening your organization, your country, your political party, and the religion you belong to, the result will be exactly the opposite. If you want to eliminate the battle of the soul by making connections through extensive relationships and by getting married and having children, the result is equal to quenching your thirst with a poison. I hope that everyone can find their own pure land of the soul, and that they do not get stuck in the mud of the battle of the soul and feel exhausted physically and mentally. 把情爱高手一网打尽. Capture all the love masters and bring them into life a genuine. Xiefeng. December 13, 2005. Edited by Qin Yu. The love masters in the world are all seeds of super celestial beings, but they suffer double misfortunes due to falling into the mundane world. Now, Life Genuine intends to capture all the love masters on Earth and arrest them to the Celestial Islands continent of the Elysium world to enjoy the celestial love life to their heart's content. For 5,000 years, human beings have been bound by ignorance and foolishness and have suppressed the most beautiful love of life under the Five Elements Mountain. Now, I will remove the talisman on top of the Five Elements Mountain and release the love that has been suppressed under it. Love is a precious gift that the greatest creator has bestowed on life. A life without love cannot bring joy to the universe. It is just a walking corpse, a moving mummy. The more abundant the love life is, the more beautiful the soul, the gentler the character, the calmer the temper, the closer to the greatest creator, and the more one understands how to love human life, love nature, love others. The more impoverished one's love life is, the uglier the soul, the more vicious the character, the more irritable the temper, the farther from the greatest creator, and the less one loves human life, loves nature, and loves others. The lower the level of life, the more it lacks love. What is hell? A place without love is hell. The higher the level of life, the more abundant their love is. What is heaven? A place full of love is heaven. People without love cannot go to heaven. The 1,000-year world, the 10,000-year world, the Elysium world. They can only live a loveless life in hell. Without love, are you still human? Pigeons know how to coo. Cranes know how to dance gracefully. Parrots and swallows know how to twitter, let alone humans. Any system that stifles love is inhumane. Any heart that suppresses love is filthy. Any morality that represses love is evil and immoral. And any mentality of individual or group that strikes love is distorted. As long as we delve deep into the human inner world, we will discover that those women who are called unchaste, flirtatious, or slutty, those men who flirt with many women, and those genius who have multiple lovers are the most beautiful flowers in human beings, the most affectionate and natural, kind, gentle, and elegant people. They are the people who do not restrict the freedom of others, do not limit the happiness of others, and do not strike the happiness of others. Those who advocate for chaste morality, those who sink lovers into the pond, those who force people to hang themselves to commit suicide, those who turn blue in the face and purple all